The MSR Pocket Rocket Deluxe and the Soto Windmaster are often considered the kings of light and small backpacking stoves. So when I came across a stove that mixes the best qualities of each stove while costing less than half the price, I just knew I had to try it out. Ever since I discovered this stove, I've been using it all summer long on big backpacking trips at high altitudes and in windy conditions, and I've been blown away by how good it is. So all this begs the question, does this little stove from Amazon take the crown for best backpacking stove? I've been on a major budget kick trying to find the best gear at the best prices. And this is in response to me having a long history of going for the most premium and most expensive gear. So I have been making a concerted effort to actually really find great gear that is actually coming in at a nice budget. Before me here today, I have a spectrum of stoves that are all in a very similar category. Now, these are all lightweight camping and backpacking stoves that are under $100. But I have a pretty big spectrum here. Here is the cheapest stove that I have found to date, and this is a $13 stove that you can pick up at Amazon or Walmart, and I've taken it on real backpacking trips and found it to be a surprisingly great stove. Next is the BRS 3000. This is kind of an ultralighters classic. This is a $17 stove, and it's been tried and true, and I've spent about a year and a half, almost 2 years, exclusively using this stove, and I've had great success with it. Next is the Camping Moon XT2F. Thanks to a commenter here on YouTube, pointed me out towards this company that is on Amazon. This has been one of my favorite finds out of any piece of gear in quite a long time. This next stove here is the Soto Windmaster, which is consistently ranked as one of the best backpacking stoves on the market. Now, the Camping Moon is almost identical to the Soto Windmaster. There are a few key differences, but the biggest one is the price. I've been able to find this stove for $32 on Amazon. This one is readily available at REI or online for $70. The Soto Windmaster is a classic. It is a beloved stove. It is consistently ranked as one of the best stoves on the market for backpackers. And so when I found one for less than half the price that is almost identical, I knew I had to get it and I knew I had to try it. And now it feels like an obvious video to make to really break down a lot of the stoves that are in the category. And the next is another classic, the MSR Pocket Rocket Deluxe. This is an $85 stove, and these are all going to perform reasonably similar, especially these three right here. $30 for the Camping Moon, $70 for the Soto Windmaster, $85 for the MSR Pocket Rocket Deluxe. I feel like the Camping Moon is such an interesting take on two classics. If you were to genetically cross the Soto Windmaster with the MSR Pocket Rocket Deluxe, you would get the Camping Moon XD2F. And it's pretty amazing that you can get this for almost a third or less than half the price of either of these two stoves. Pretty impressive. Now, I've actually been using this stove for most of this summer, and I have been thrilled with its performance. For a quick comparison, the BRS 3000 does not have a fuel regulator on it, whereas these three have fuel regulators. These also all have piezo igniters, as well as this AO2 stove. Also, this $13 stove also has a piezo igniter. Now, where the BRS 3000 is so good is that it is as light as it comes. This is a 1 ounce stove. This is a great stove for very simple ultralight backpacking. Despite the fact that I have loved this stove for the last year and a half and have recommended it here on the channel as one of my favorite pieces of gear that I've used, I'm going to set this one aside for now because I think that there are some merits to these other stoves that I want to talk about that I think are worth it. So we'll say goodbye to the BRS 3000 for just a minute because it's not exactly a secret stove anymore. So now we're going to boil it down. I've got two of the classics that have been on the market for a long time, beloved stoves, and have been high performers. And now I have two stoves that are Amazon stoves. Again, I've talked about this one, so I'm going to set it aside for a quick second. I'll get back to it because I think it is an interesting stove. But I really want to talk about the Camping Moon XD2F because this is the stove that I think if I could make any recommendation based on all of the experiences that I've had over my lifetime of backpacking, this is the stove that I'm most excited about. The Camping Moon actually has a almost identical piezo igniter to the Pocket Rocket Deluxe. I actually find the Camping Moon to be just as clean, just as smooth, And so far, I've had great success with boil times, fuel efficiency, all the things that you want in a stove. Now the Soto Windmaster has this slightly different piezo igniter. It's kind of on the front end, so where you are turning the fuel nozzle, it's in the same place. So it's kind of, I actually prefer it on this other side. I think that this is a slightly less ergonomically functional piezo placement, but that actually took quite a few clicks. But once it's going, that is a very clean flame, and it really seems like a very high performer. But I had to turn this almost all the way up to get this to ignite. The other thing that you will see is the pot support. So this has an almost identical pot support structure. Both the Soto Windmaster and the Camping Moon have these detachable 4-prong pot stands. The MSR Pocket Rocket Deluxe is fully integrated and they actually fold down. It's a little bit funny and it's going to be all preferences, but both of these are very stable. The Pocket Rocket Deluxe is a 3-pronged pot support, which is going to make it potentially more tippy. Let's check in and see how heavy all of these stoves are. The Camping Moon XD2F is 98.1 grams. The Soto Windmaster is 86.3 grams, so actually a little bit lighter. And the MSR Pocket Rocket Deluxe is 82.5 grams, making it the lightest stove by a hair. The Camping Moon is just the tiniest fraction heavier. We're talking about a difference of about 0.3 ounces or a few grams. The sleekest, most slender and small is going to definitely be the MSR Pocket Rocket Deluxe by a very small margin. And where you really get the savings is how it compacts together. The way that this folds up and that the pot support is actually all in one piece, I definitely do prefer that. In no scenario are you going to lose and not have the pot support. Where I could see a theoretical scenario in which if you don't keep track of this, you're not going to really be able to use the pot without the pot support. Because if I were to just put this directly on, it would snuff out the flame, there'd be no oxygen in there, and it just wouldn't work. So if you've been watching, you definitely have seen that Element has been sponsoring my videos lately, and I've been so thrilled to have such a great sponsor on board. There's so many reasons why I've been loving working with Element. They make a great product. I drink these all the time. These are the best tasting electrolyte mixes I've ever used. It's basically just what your body needs to recover when you're out there on the trail, when you're working hard, you're sweating, you're losing electrolytes. It gives you exactly what your body needs to recover, to not have muscle fatigue, to sleep well, to not have headaches. I've found so many benefits to using Element, not only when I'm backpacking, which is a very obvious situation, but also just in regular life. I just really drink these all the time. If you want to try out 8 of Element's most popular flavors, you can get a free sample pack by going to drinkelement.com/erichanson. That's DRINKLMNT.com/erichanson and get a free sample pack with any purchase. Big thank you to Element for sponsoring this video, for sponsoring my channel. I'm so thankful, and I really think that you will truly love Element if you give them a try. So make sure you hit up that link and get yourself a free sample pack. Let's do some boil times. That was just under 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Pretty close, not very different. About 5 seconds longer for that one. $2.42. All right, that was the longest boil time so far. Not a dramatic difference, but it also did feel like it used a lot of fuel to do that. $3.26, that's the longest time by far, but this is also the cheapest stove by far. So it's cool to see the boil times back to back to back. That was the first time I'd ever done that, so I didn't know where things were going to line up. And I think it was mostly pretty accurate to what I would have thought, but I am surprised that the Camping Moon was technically the fastest, if only by about a second or two, but it was pretty dang awesome to see it perform equally as well, right in line with all of these. And what I've also noticed is that For some reason, the Soto Windmaster, it really seems to perform at its best where it's like lighting and clicking and burning at close to full power. Whereas with the Camping Moon, it actually seems to be at a pretty good sweet spot for boiling, right around like midway, 50%, which probably means it's actually going to be a little bit more fuel efficient. As I researched for this video, I have come across information that shows that the MSR Pocket Rocket Deluxe seems to be a smidge above the rest for fuel efficiency, especially when we're looking at wind being involved. So this is a controlled environment, there's no wind. All of these are really going to perform just about the same, as you can crank them up. But what's going to happen when there's some wind blowing across these stoves and the heat just kind of gets pulled away? I think, honestly, all three of these are going to be about the same because they have a very similar design. You really can almost not tell a design difference at all. Although one thing I will say is that between the Camping Moon and the MSR Pocket Rocket Deluxe, the pot sits just a little bit lower, a little bit closer to the flame, whereas this is just a tiny bit more elevated. And I'm curious as if that altered the boil time, and I'm curious also if that would alter the effect of when there's wind blowing across it, if that little bit bigger gap would mean that it's actually slightly less efficient. Who are these stoves for? These are the budget super end stoves. So this is a $13 stove, this is a $17 stove. I think that this AO2 stove, well, I am a big fan of it and how well it performs for $13. I think for backpackers who are going to be doing a lot of camping and backpacking, it does feel like a cheaper stove, and it's a little bit flimsier. It's not as good pot support, and I bet this igniter will probably be the first thing to fail on it. And so I would say if you're a heavy user, I probably wouldn't go for the super extreme cheap. Whereas the BRS is a really nice stove. It's a great performer. Everybody that's in the thru hiking community pretty much has good things to say about this. So it's a tried and true classic, and I think you're going to be in a really good spot with it for 17 bucks. But it doesn't have a piezo lighter. You got to have a lighter to ignite it, and that's a ding. And also just it has the smallest pot profile here. So it is going to be the least stable as well. So if you're cooking more elaborate meals or you've got a skillet on it, it's just going to be a little bit less stable there. When it comes down to the three big dogs, the MSR, the Soto, and the Camping Moon, I'm really excited to see how well the Camping Moon performed. Honestly, just as great. It is on par with these classic big dogs in the backpacking community. So if you're buying from scratch, you don't already have a stove, I would say that the Camping Moon is a steal. It's awesome that you can get it for 32 bucks as opposed to 70 or 85. So I would absolutely say save that money, go for the Camping Moon. That's it for me. I hope you found this video helpful. And as always, if you have any questions, please hit me up in the comments below. I'd love to try to answer as many comments as you can. If you're not already subscribed here, please give this channel a subscribe. It's one of the easiest things and simplest things that you can do to support a creator or a channel that you enjoy. So if you like my videos, give it a thumbs up and subscribe here on my channel. All right, that's it for me. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Eric Hanson. I'll see you later.